What's up, everyone? Today I got two short stories for you. One is legit and the other is a lie. The Teacher Who Never Left. This story takes place in Hillsborough, North Carolina. The first email arrived from an unknown email address at 2:17 a.m. No subject line, no signature, just a single sentence glowing against the dark screen at room 117. That email said, "You won't make it to spring." Evan Mercer stared at it long after the hallway lights clicked off for the night. Cedar Ridge High was silent around him. He told himself it was a prank, either by a bored student or a parent. By the end of September, there were 3 more emails. The first one said, "You think they don't see you?" The second one said, "You stole what wasn't yours." And the third one said, "Accidents happen after tutoring sessions." That last one made his chest tighten because Evan stayed late every Thursday for tutoring. 3 years earlier, Evan had lost the department chair position to Daniel Kessler. Daniel, with his contagious laugh, his crowded classroom, his gift for storytelling that made even the War of 1812 sound cinematic, students adored him, parents requested him, administrators trusted him. Evan had believed the position was his. He had the credentials, the graduate degree, the spotless record. When the board chose Daniel instead, applause filled the room. Evan remembered clapping too. He remembered how it felt. By October, the emails were no longer just words. One morning, Evan's classroom whiteboard was scrawled with a message in red marker. Liar. The security footage showed nothing. No one entering after hours, no one lingering near room 117. A week later, his car door was found deeply scratched in the faculty parking lot. Police were notified. The school board quietly began reviewing recent complaints, including one filed by Mark Delaney, a furious father whose son had failed Evan's advanced literature class. The timing fit, the anger fit, and someone had seen Daniel Kessler speaking with Mark after a basketball game. "Someone's trying to ruin you," Daniel told Evan one afternoon, lowering his voice, "and they're trying to drag others into it." Evan's expression tightened. "You think I don't know that?" Daniel studied him. There was something off. Not fear exactly, but something he could not put his finger on. The emails escalated in the winter. They referenced private faculty conversations, jokes made in the lounge, comments from staff meetings. Whoever was sending them had insider knowledge. Police began looking closely at Daniel. Students protested, parents demanded answers. Evan sent a staff-wide message urging unity. "In times like these, we must stand together." In March, a final email arrived. "Thursday after tutoring, it ends." He reported it to the principal and to the police. "Cancel tutoring," the principal urged. "I can't. The seniors need me," Evan said. Thursday night came and 2 students stayed late reviewing for state exams. They left at 5:43 p.m., laughing about prom. Surveillance footage captured them walking into an empty parking lot. Evan remained inside. At 8:12 p.m., he sent a reply to the anonymous email address. "I won't be afraid anymore." Then the building went still. The custodian found him at 10:06 p.m. Evan Mercer lay between the rows of desks, eyes open, paper scattered like fallen birds around him. No sign of a struggle, no forced entry, the classroom door locked from the inside. The headline broke before dawn. Local teacher found dead in classroom after late-night tutoring session. The town reeled. Police treated it as a homicide. The threatening emails were undeniable evidence. Mark Delaney was brought in for questioning. Teacher Daniel Kessler was investigated along with a few other teachers. The building security system told a strange story. No one entered after the students left. No window alarms were triggered. Evan had been alone. Autopsy results deepened the mystery. It showed he died from poison, a rare compound difficult to trace. It caused burning in the throat with a slow respiratory shutdown. Investigators combed through Evan's belongings. Inside his desk drawer sat a stainless steel thermos. Residue inside matched the toxin. That was the first crack. The second came from digital forensics. The anonymous email account had been accessed multiple times from Cedar Ridge High's internal network, always during hours when Evan was present. The final email had been sent from his desktop computer at 8:09 p.m., 3 minutes before security cameras showed him walking calmly down the hallway, thermos in hand. Police widened their search. At Evan's home, they found chemical packaging in the garage, a prepaid debit card used for online purchases, a grocery store camera that clearly showed Evan buying the card. Search history revealed meticulous research. Toxic dosage thresholds, symptoms that mimic environmental exposure, and delayed onset poison were a few of the search results produced by forensics. The scratches on his car door matched a multi-tool found in his own car. The red marker on the whiteboard matched the brand in his desk. Every threat, every act of vandalism, every email originated with Evan Mercer. He had created a phantom enemy. He crafted suspicion around Mark Delaney. He had seeded doubt about Daniel Kessler. He had waited for the investigation to close in on both of them. And then he had planned the final act, a dramatic poisoning that would cement his martyrdom and destroy Daniel's career permanently. But something went wrong. The chemical concentration in his final mixture was stronger than the batch he had tested. He had increased the dosage slightly, worried earlier attempts were too mild. He miscalculated. There was no antidote waiting and no accomplice to save him. When the burning started, his lungs began to fail and he was alone in the room. The killer never entered the building. The killer never sent an email from the shadows. The killer never scratched the car or wrote on the board. The killer was already inside. At the press conference 2 weeks later, the police chief spoke carefully. There is no ongoing threat to Cedar Ridge High School, he said. This was a tragic case of self-inflicted poisoning connected to a staged harassment campaign. Daniel Kessler was cleared. Mark Delaney was publicly exonerated, but clearance didn't erase the damage. Daniel returned to his classroom that fall. The students still loved him, parents still trusted him, yet sometimes, late at night while grading papers, he would glance at the computer when an email notification would appear. Just for a second, because the most disturbing part wasn't the poison. It wasn't the lies, it was the patience. Months of manufactured fear, weeks of rehearsed victimhood, a plan designed to destroy an innocent man, executed so carefully that it almost worked. In the end, the mystery wasn't who killed Evan Mercer, it was how far resentment can go before it consumes the one who carries it. The shocking call. This story takes place in Piscataway, New Jersey. By late afternoon, the sky over Piscataway had turned an unsettling shade of greenish gray. Wind bent trees nearly sideways, and the first thunderclap rattled windows across the quiet suburban street. Weather alerts flashed across televisions, and neighbors hurried to bring lawn chairs inside. Inside a split-level house on a quiet block, 17-year-old Daniel Rivera barely noticed the storm. He sat on the living room couch watching TV. Rain lashed against the window in loud, irregular bursts. Each strike of thunder rolled through the structure. Not just heard, but felt. A low vibration in the floorboards and in the glass. Daniel had been trying to call his cousin to talk about weekend plans. The local band was playing a concert and he wanted to see if he wanted to go. He picked up the old corded telephone mounted on the wall beside the kitchen entrance. The line crackled when he lifted it. He dialed his cousin's number, and after a few rings, it sounded as if someone picked up. Hello? Static at first, then a faint connection, then nothing again. Outside, lightning flashed, a blinding white arc that lit the entire house as if someone had flipped on the stadium lights. Daniel instinctively pressed the receiver tighter to his ear as the thunder followed almost instantly. The buzzing in the phone grew louder. It wasn't a normal static hiss. It had a sharp edge to it like metal scraping glass. Another flash, another crack, and then came the strike. Lightning hit somewhere nearby, close enough that the house shuddered. The electrical surge traveled through the exterior wiring into the utility line and through the copper wires of the home's telephone network. Daniel never saw it coming. A violent surge of current shot through the telephone wire, through the receiver pressed against his head, and entered through his left ear. There was no dramatic explosion, no visible flame. Only a sudden, overwhelming force, a blinding white sensation that obliterated sound, thought, and motion in a fraction of a second. His muscles seized. The receiver dropped from his hand, his body collapsed sideways onto the carpet. The storm continued without pause. His mom was upstairs and heard something fall. At first, she thought it was thunder shaking the house, but then she realized she hadn't heard Daniel's voice in several minutes. She stepped into the hallway listening. Rain pounded the roof while the wind howled through the trees. Daniel? No answer. She walked towards the stairs with unease tightening her chest. When she reached the bottom and turned into the living room, she saw him lying on the floor, eyes open but unfocused, skin pale. The phone was dangling by the cord. She knew immediately something was terribly wrong. She screamed his name as she rushed to his side. She shook him, but his body was limp and his chest did not rise. She pressed her ear near to his mouth. No breath. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the phone from trying to dial emergency services. The operator's voice sounded distant and mechanical against the roaring storm. "My son isn't breathing. I don't know what happened." "Ma'am, listen carefully," the operator said calmly. "Lay him flat on his back, place the heel of your hand in the center of his chest, push hard and fast." She began compressions, counting out loud, her voice breaking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each push felt like forcing life back into a body that had already slipped away. The house smelled faintly of ozone and burned insulation. Minutes seemed like hours. Her arms were growing tired, her knees ached against the floor. She kept pressing. She could hear the sirens approaching in the distance. When emergency responders burst through the front door, rain blowing in behind them, they moved with urgency. One took over compressions immediately, another attached monitoring equipment, and the third prepared a defibrillator. 17-year-old male, one of them said quickly. Possible electrical injury? The monitor displayed a flat, unresponsive line. Charging! The rising whine of the defibrillator cut through the storm's roar. Clear! Daniel's body jolted. Nothing. They resumed compressions, counting steadily over the sound of thunder rattling the windows. Charging again. Clear! Another shock. The monitor flickered, a faint disturbance, then silence again. No rhythm held. Minutes stretched, efforts continued, compressions never stopped. Finally, the lead paramedic looked at the unmoving line, then at the clock. Time was called. The room, once filled with motion and commands, grew still except for the storm outside. They covered him carefully and spoke in quieter voices as equipment was packed away. Externally, there had been little to see. Internally, the damage had been immediate. Per the coroner's report, from examination findings and scene information, the cause of death was determined to be cardiac arrest precipitated by an electrical injury. Evidence indicates lightning struck a nearby infrastructure, transmitting an electrical surge through a wired telephone system. The current entered at the point of contact with the person's ear, traversed conductive tissue pathways, and produced a fatal disruption of cardiac rhythm. Months later, during another thunderstorm, Daniel's mother stared out the window as rain traced familiar patterns down the glass. Lightning flashed far off across the horizon, silent at that distance. What remained was not the violence of the storm, but the fragile truth it had revealed, how fragile routine moments truly are. In this episode, we had the teacher who never left and the shocking call. Which one is legit and which one is a lie? The legit one was the shocking call. This story took place in Piscataway, New Jersey in February of 1986. Jason Finley was electrocuted while talking on his home phone. Lightning struck his house and caused an electrical surge to shoot through the telephone wire and enter through his left ear, causing his heart to stop. Telephone-related accidents are not uncommon, but fatal outcomes are exceedingly rare.